Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Have you ever wondered what happens when a country claims to offer religious freedom but seems to do everything possible to suppress it? Today, we're diving into one of the world's most secretive countries, North Korea. While its government insists that religious freedom is guaranteed, the reality on the ground tells a different story. In fact, it's one of the most extreme examples of how religious practice is controlled or outright forbidden. We're about to explore whether religious freedom in North Korea is a reality or a myth, and what's really happening behind the scenes in 2025. Stick around, because this journey will reveal surprising truths that you don't want to miss. 1. North Korea's claim versus reality. Let's start with the official stance. North Korea's constitution guarantees the freedom to practice religion. Sounds good, right? But as with many things in North Korea, what's written on paper doesn't reflect what's happening on the ground. In practice, religious freedom is virtually non-existent. The regime's control over citizens is absolute, and religious practices outside state-approved spaces are seen as subversive. Yes, there are state-sanctioned places where people can practice religion, but these institutions are not about worship, they're about control. Religion in North Korea is tightly regulated, and any deviation from the state ideology of Juche is met with swift, severe punishment. So, is religious freedom a myth in North Korea? Absolutely. But let's dig deeper into why. 2. The role of Juche, North Korea's state ideology. To understand why religious freedom is suppressed, we need to look at the heart of North Korea's control system, Juche. Juche isn't just a political ideology, it's a replacement for religion. Created by Kim Il-sung, the country's founding leader, Juche teaches self-reliance, but in practice, it demands unwavering loyalty to the Kim family. The regime paints the Kim dynasty as infallible, essentially putting them in a godlike position. Juche doesn't leave room for alternative belief systems, which means any form of worship outside the regime's teachings is considered a threat to national security. So, when the regime talks about religious freedom, it's really just a rhetorical tool. True freedom would challenge the very core of North Korea's leadership structure, and that's something the government cannot allow. 3. The real cost of practicing religion. Now, let's talk about the consequences for those who practice religion outside the state's control. The risks are unimaginable. If you're caught with religious materials, like a Bible, or if you're suspected of attending an underground church, you could face imprisonment, forced labor, or even execution. Defectors from North Korea in 2025 tell stories of families being torn apart because one member was suspected of being a Christian. They were sent to labor camps where they endured brutal conditions. The state uses this fear to keep the population in line. Yet, despite these dangers, there are still people willing to risk everything to practice their faith in secret. 4. The underground Christian church. Resilience in the shadows. Despite the risk of brutal punishment, Christianity remains one of the most persecuted religions in North Korea. But even in the darkest corners of this oppressive regime, believers continue to practice their faith in secret. The underground church in North Korea is a symbol of hope and resilience. Christians, driven by faith, continue to meet in hidden locations, sometimes in private homes or secluded areas, away from the prying eyes of government officials. In 2025, these underground churches are still active, though the individuals involved face enormous risks. Smuggling Bibles, holding clandestine worship services, and sharing prayers are small acts of defiance that keep the spirit of Christianity alive. But these underground believers are not victims. They are courageous agents of resistance who risk everything to practice their faith. 5. Foreign missions. A thin thread of hope. What about outside influence? Can the international community make a difference? The short answer is yes, but it's extremely challenging. Foreign missionaries and NGOs have been working for decades to smuggle religious materials into North Korea. While they can't operate openly, their efforts are vital lifelines to the underground church. In 2025, efforts to provide Christian literature, radio broadcasts, and Bibles continue, though most of it is smuggled in through neighboring countries like China and South Korea. These efforts are crucial, but they also put everyone involved at immense risk. If the government finds out about these activities, the consequences are severe not just for the individuals involved, but for anyone associated with them. 6. The global debate. Geopolitics and religious freedom. Now, let's zoom out a bit. While religious freedom is an issue on its own, it intersects with larger global issues. For example, the United Nations has long been involved in human rights advocacy related to North Korea, but geopolitical tensions complicate these efforts. North Korea's nuclear ambitions and its strained relationships with countries like the US and South Korea often overshadow discussions of religious freedom. However, the international community's advocacy for religious freedom in North Korea is part of a broader push for human rights reforms. As sanctions on the regime continue, there is increasing pressure for North Korea to reconsider its treatment of religious minorities. But let's be clear. While global efforts are necessary, real change will likely have to come from within North Korea itself. 7. Looking ahead. A hopeful outlook? So, what does the future hold for religious freedom in North Korea? Can we expect any significant change? The reality is, it's hard to say. The regime's grip on power remains as tight as ever, and religious freedom seems like a distant hope. But here's the thing, the underground Christian community is growing, despite the odds. North Koreans who hold on to their faith are a testament to the human spirit's resilience. While there's little chance for religious freedom to blossom openly anytime soon, small acts of defiance and global pressure might one day bring about change. Perhaps not in our lifetimes, but the foundation for change is being laid by those who continue to practice their faith, even in the face of unimaginable risks. So, is religious freedom in North Korea a myth? Absolutely, but in a world where faith continues to flourish even under extreme repression, there's always hope. The people of North Korea deserve the same freedom to practice their beliefs as anyone else in the world. Will the regime allow that? Only time will tell. What do you think? Could we see a change in North Korea's religious policies? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more insightful videos like this one. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay curious and keep questioning the world around you.